Imagine ancient Rome, the heart of a bustling republic where the voices of merchants, senators, and philosophers mix in the crowded forums and majestic temples. The city is a vibrant hub of activity, its streets lined with grand architecture symbolizing the power and prestige of a civilization at its peak. Yet beneath this grandeur, Rome is a city on the brink. The republic designed to prevent the rise of a king is governed by a complex system of checks and balances. Power is shared among elected officials, including consuls and the Senate. However, this ideal of shared governance is increasingly undermined by corruption, class conflict, and the growing divide between the wealthy patricians and the struggling plebeians. Political alliances and rivalries dictate the flow of power, with influential families like the Julii maneuvering for dominance. The air is thick with tension as ambitious leaders vie for control, setting the stage for the rise of one of Rome's most legendary figures, Julius Caesar. Born into this world of political intrigue and social unrest, Caesar's path is marked by the legacy of his lineage and the fierce ambition to redefine the destiny of Rome. The early life of Caesar. Born into the ancient patrician family of the Julii, Julius Caesar came into the world with expectations of greatness. His family claimed descent from Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, which bestowed upon Caesar not only a noble lineage but a divine right to leadership in the eyes of the people. However, despite this illustrious background, Caesar's childhood was marked by the ordinary struggles and political turmoil of Roman life. As a young man, Caesar's ambition became evident through his actions and decisions. His early career was marked by a daring episode that would foretell his bold nature. While still in his early 20s, he was kidnapped by Cilician pirates, notorious for their brutality. Held for ransom, Caesar displayed an unnerving confidence and authority over his captors, insisting they increase the ransom because he was worth far more than they demanded. During his captivity, he maintained an air of command, even threatening to crucify his captors upon his release, a promise he chillingly fulfilled once his ransom was paid, and he raised a naval force at Miletus. Upon returning to Rome, Caesar plunged into the cutthroat arena of Roman politics. He quickly ascended the cursus honorum, the sequence of public offices held by aspiring politicians. His charm, intelligence, and ruthless political tactics distinguished him from his peers. During his rise, he aligned himself with powerful figures, including the wealthy Crassus and the military hero Pompey, navigating through the Republic's complex and often dangerous political landscape with a blend of diplomacy and cunning. Caesar's marriage to Cornelia, the daughter of a powerful member of the popular faction, further cemented his political ambitions. Despite pressure from the dictator Sulla to divorce her and marry a more politically advantageous wife, Caesar refused, demonstrating his steadfast loyalty and integrity. This decision forced him into military service away from Rome, allowing him to escape Sulla's purges and begin his military career. His return to Rome after Sulla's death marked the beginning of his true rise to power. Elected as a military tribune, he championed the causes of the soldiers and the common people, earning a reputation as a populist. His subsequent election as Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome, granted him an esteemed position in both the political and religious spheres of Roman life. This early period of Caesar's life was characterized by his relentless pursuit of power, marked by alliances, personal risks, and the relentless ambition that would define his path to leadership. His ability to charm the public and manipulate the political elite set the stage for his ultimate conquests, both within Rome and across its expanding borders. The formation of the First Triumvirate. In the politically charged atmosphere of Rome, where power was both a prize and a peril, Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, Pompey the Great, and Marcus Licinius Crassus formed a shadowy alliance known as the First Triumvirate in 60 BC. This was not an official state institution but a secretive pact aimed at dominating Roman politics through their combined strength. Each member brought something vital to the table: Caesar's political influence, Pompey's military might, and Crassus's immense wealth. Pompey, a military hero, returned from the east flush with victories but found his efforts to secure land for his veterans thwarted by a hostile Senate. Crassus, the richest man in Rome, sought political influence commensurate with his economic power. Caesar, ever the strategist, needed substantial financial and military support for his ambitious political and military plans. Their alliance was thus born out of mutual necessity and a shared disdain for the Senate's authority. With the support of Crassus' wealth and Pompey's soldiers, Caesar launched his bid for the consulship in 59 BC. Once elected, he pushed through a series of laws favorable to his allies, including land reforms that benefited Pompey's veterans, securing loyalty from Rome's crucial military factions. These laws were passed using populist tactics, often bypassing the Senate entirely, which both alarmed and angered the traditional conservative elites. However, the triumvirate's power was not unchallenged. The alliance's blatant power grab alienated many, and their unity began to show cracks as personal ambitions and external pressures mounted. The death of Crassus in 53 BC during the Parthian campaign left a power vacuum and weakened the stability of the triumvirate. Pompey, drifting apart from Caesar, began to align more closely with the Senate, particularly as Caesar's growing power in Gaul became a clear threat to his own standing in Rome. This shifting dynamic set the stage for increasing tensions between Caesar and Pompey. As Caesar's conquests in Gaul brought him unprecedented fame and popularity, Pompey grew envious and wary of his erstwhile allies' intentions. The Senate, exploiting this rift, maneuvered to pit Pompey against Caesar, further straining the already fragile alliance. The breakdown of the First Triumvirate exemplifies the volatile nature of Roman political alliances, where personal ambitions and public duties were often indistinguishable. The dissolution of this alliance propelled Rome toward civil war, as former allies turned into bitter rivals. This period underscored Caesar's mastery of both political strategy and manipulation, setting him on a collision course with Pompey and the Senate, a conflict that would ultimately decide the fate of the Roman Republic. Caesar's conquest of Gaul. Julius Caesar's ambitions extended far beyond the city of Rome. In 58 BC, as governor of Gaul, comprising modern France, Belgium, Switzerland, and parts of Italy, Caesar embarked on what would become one of the most significant military campaigns in Roman history. The Gallic Wars, lasting from 58 to 50 BC, were motivated by a combination of defensive maneuvers against hostile tribes and aggressive expansionism. Caesar faced fierce resistance from various Gallic tribes united under the charismatic leadership of Vercingetorix. The campaign's climax came at the siege of Alesia in 52 BC, where Caesar's tactical genius was on full display. He ordered his legions to construct massive fortifications, both an outer wall to keep reinforcements at bay and an inner one to besiege the city. This double encirclement, a marvel of military engineering, led to the capitulation of Vercingetorix and marked the decisive victory that effectively ended major resistance in Gaul. The conquest of Gaul greatly enhanced Caesar's wealth through spoils and increased his popularity among the Roman populace and his legions. Soldiers loyal to Caesar were rewarded with land and spoils, cementing their loyalty and establishing a formidable power base. His detailed commentaries on the Gallic Wars, which he wrote and circulated, also served as propaganda that portrayed him as a heroic figure, championing the Roman cause and bringing civilization to the barbaric lands. However, his prolonged campaign aroused suspicion and fear in Rome, particularly among his political rivals. The immense power and independence gained through his conquests posed a direct threat to the Senate and to Pompey, who was once an ally but now viewed Caesar's growing military might with increasing apprehension. As Caesar's term as governor neared its end, the Senate, influenced by Pompey, demanded his return to Rome as a private citizen, stripping him of his immunity from prosecution and command of his army. This ultimatum would lead to a pivotal decision, setting the stage for the next chapter of Caesar's life and the history of Rome. The Civil War, crossing the Rubicon. In 49 BC, Julius Caesar stood on the northern bank of the Rubicon River, the geographical boundary that marked the limit of his provincial command and the beginning of Italian soil governed directly by Rome. The Senate, under the sway of Pompey, had issued an ultimatum. Caesar must disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, or be declared an enemy of the state. This was a calculated move to strip Caesar of his power and protect the political status quo. Alea iacta est, the die is cast, Caesar declared as he led his legions across the Rubicon into Italy, a direct act of insurrection against the Senate and a declaration of civil war. This moment was not just a physical crossing but a metaphorical leap into uncertain waters, forever altering the course of Roman history. The march towards Rome was swift and decisive. Caesar's forces met minimal resistance as Pompey and many senators, unprepared for his bold move, fled to Greece. This rapid advance allowed Caesar to seize control of Italy within weeks, a move that stunned his adversaries and demonstrated his military prowess and the loyalty of his troops. Caesar's gamble had paid off. With Italy under his control, he set his sights on confronting Pompey and his legions. The ensuing civil war stretched across the Roman world, from the shores of Greece to the sands of Egypt. Caesar's victories at pivotal battles such as Pharsalus, where he decisively defeated Pompey, showcased his strategic brilliance and solidified his status as one of Rome's greatest military minds. Yet, the victory was bitter. The civil war had divided Rome, pitting Romans against each other. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was tragically assassinated in a misguided attempt to win favor with Caesar. This act marked a poignant end to a once formidable partnership and set the stage for Caesar's uncontested rise to power. Dictatorship and reforms. Upon securing control over Rome and its territories, Julius Caesar declared himself dictator, a title meant to be temporary, but which he held until his death. With absolute power, he initiated a series of sweeping reforms aimed at stabilizing and improving the Roman state, which had been deeply scarred by years of civil war and political dysfunction. Caesar's reforms touched every aspect of Roman life. He restructured the Senate, increasing its membership to 900 in an effort to consolidate his control and dilute the aristocratic power base, but also to represent more regions of the empire. This move, while increasing his support, also bred resentment among the traditional elites who viewed the inflated Senate as a devaluation of their political influence. Economically, Caesar tackled Rome's debt crisis by passing laws that alleviated debt burdens, which endeared him to the lower classes but antagonized creditors. He also reformed the calendar, creating the Julian calendar, which more accurately reflected the solar year and is the precursor to the modern Gregorian calendar. Perhaps his most enduring social reform was his focus on urban planning and public works. Caesar initiated extensive building projects, including the renovation of crumbling infrastructure and the creation of new forums, temples, and public spaces. These projects not only employed thousands of jobless citizens but also beautified and modernized Rome, reinforcing his image as a benefactor of the city. Despite these achievements, Caesar's dictatorship was controversial. His concentration of power and the manner in which he obtained it alarmed many who feared that he was positioning himself to become king, an anathema to the Roman Republic's ideals. This brewing discontent among the elite, fueled by fear of his growing autocracy, set the stage for dramatic and deadly consequences. The Ides of March, betrayal and assassination. Julius Caesar's reforms and consolidation of power had earned him admiration and support across much of Rome, but they had also intensified the fear and hatred among the Senate's elite. His declaration as dictator for life in 44 BC was the final straw for many, who saw in Caesar a tyrant who threatened the very foundations of the Republic. The conspiracy against Caesar was not limited to a fringe group of extremists. It included over 60 senators, some of whom were once his allies and supporters. Central figures in the plot were Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus, the latter of whom Caesar was said to have trusted deeply, adding a poignant layer of personal betrayal to the political act. The assassin struck on March 15, 44 BC, the Ides of March. As Caesar entered the Senate at the Theater of Pompey, the conspirators gathered around him under the pretense of presenting a petition. Within moments, the group unsheathed their daggers and attacked. Caesar was stabbed 23 times, falling at the base of a statue of Pompey, marking a dramatic and symbolic end to his rule. The aftermath was chaotic, with the assassins initially proclaiming themselves liberators of the Republic. However, the assassination did not restore the Republic as the conspirators had hoped. Instead, it plunged Rome into further turmoil and civil wars, paving the way for the rise of Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, and the eventual establishment of the Roman Empire under his rule as Augustus. Aftermath and legacy. The assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March did not lead to the restoration of the Republican ideals as the conspirators had envisioned. Instead, it created a power vacuum that plunged Rome into a series of bitter power struggles and civil wars. The immediate aftermath was marked by confusion and fear, with both the assassins and Caesar's supporters vying for control. Caesar's death unleashed a wave of loyalty among his followers, particularly his veteran legions and the general populace who had benefited from his reforms and leadership. His adopted heir, Gaius Octavius, later known as Augustus, along with Caesar's loyal generals, Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus, formed the Second Triumvirate. Unlike the informal alliance of the First Triumvirate, this was a legal and brutally effective arrangement sanctioned by the Senate to hunt down and eliminate Caesar's assassins and their supporters. The ensuing conflicts culminated in the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, where Brutus and Cassius met their demise, effectively ending any immediate hopes of reviving the Republic. Over time, the Second Triumvirate itself fractured, with Octavian and Antony eventually turning against each other, leading to the final war of the Roman Republic. Octavian's victory at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC against Antony and Cleopatra marked the end of Roman Republican governance and the beginning of the Roman Empire. Octavian, now uncontested in power, was bestowed the title of Augustus by the Senate, becoming the first Roman emperor. His rule inaugurated a period of relative peace and stability known as the Pax Romana. Caesar's legacy, therefore, is dual-faced. He is remembered both as a dictator who overstepped the bounds of the Republic and as a visionary whose policies laid the groundwork for the imperial structure that would govern Rome for centuries. His actions and their repercussions reshaped the Roman world, setting the stage for its transformation from a republic to an empire, a shift that would have lasting impacts on the course of Western history. Conclusion: Reflections on Power and History. Julius Caesar's life is a powerful narrative about ambition, power, and the consequences of political actions. His rise and fall underscore the complexities of leadership and the volatile nature of power. Caesar's story also serves as a lesson on the impermanence of political structures and the potential for transformation, reminding us that the pursuit of power often leads to unintended consequences. His legacy continues to influence not only historical scholarship but also contemporary political discourse, demonstrating the lasting impact of his extraordinary life and tumultuous times. Thanks for joining us on this historical adventure. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Got a topic you're curious about? Leave your ideas in the comments. We might explore it in our next video. See you in the past.